Attorney General Pam Bondi is being challenged by many people, especially Laura Loomer, for about the Epstein files. And this is a continuing follow-up or aftermath of what we talked about on yesterday's show. And you know what? I got to say, folks, the Trump administration made promises. We need to know what's going on here. And this is a full response towards what we covered on yesterday's show, where you had... hold on, let me go ahead and pull this up here, where Representative James Comer just said he doesn't think Attorney General Pam Bondi has the Epstein files. Let's just replay just a few short minutes of this.
That's like finding a unicorn in Washington, D.C. You have come on and talked about that on this program, just for the sake of transparency, which is very big for you. And so, in closing, any motion on that, any movement on that? We hear that there's a timeline now.
I hope James has the Epstein files, because I don't think the Department of Justice has them, or at least the Attorney General does not have them, or she would have turned them over.
So just a few short 35 seconds into that. So let's play this video here.
Benny Johnson was asking James Comer about the Epstein files and whether or not we could expect to see the Epstein files come out. And, usually you hear all these canned responses from politicians that just go ahead and defend Pam Bondi, right? And they say, oh, Pam Blondy's doing such a great job. It's like, all this fucking circle jerk bullshit. Oh, yeah, she's so amazing. Oh, my God, she's so great. Blah, 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 right? Yeah, she's not so great. Trust me, guys. She's not really doing such a great job. We were promised that these files were going to be released on day one. Day one promise. Well, what is it now? Over 100 days into the Trump administration, have we seen any Epstein files? No, we haven't received any Epstein files. Then she goes on Fox News. I mean, honestly, every single day, Pam Bondi is on Fox News. She's on Fox News more than she does her job. And other people are starting to realize it. We have a video clip, and we'll play this after the fact, right? Or maybe we should play this video clip before we play the Comer clip so that you can see all the different statements that have been made by Pam Bondi. I made this video clip compilation probably like 2 months or so ago to highlight all of the discrepancies in Pam Bondi's statements. First, she said that the files were on her desk, right? And then she had that ridiculous Bindergate situation at the White House where she made all these crazy binders that were not even full of Epstein documents and had these influencers essentially run a state media campaign for her where they waved these binders around pretending like they were given Epstein files by Pam Bondi. Well, it turns out there's really nothing in the binder. Then she goes on Fox News and says, oh, the files are on my desk right now. Then she tells Mark Levin that the files are being delivered to my office in a truck. So they were on her desk, but then they weren't on her desk. And then they were delivered to her office in a truck. And then the big bad boogeymen over at the deep state were trying to sabotage her, and they lied to her about the real Epstein documents. And then they were going to be released at a later date. But now, right, we don't know, because Pam Bondi also came out this last week and said that there's no set deadline for when they're going to release the Epstein files, even though we were told she already released the Epstein files. Remember when she gave out these binders?
So I want to pause here. All right, pause on that. Okay, again, Laura Loomer, I got my opinions, but then nonetheless. So Attorney General Pam Bondi dismissed allegations that the Jeffrey Epstein files are missing, stated that the FBI is reviewing tens of thousands of videos featuring a disgraced financier with children. This is very horrible to discuss. Republican Representative James Comer said on the conservative commentator Benny Johnson show that he believes that the Justice Department doesn't have the Epstein files. I hope they're not shredding documents right now, the Kentucky congressman said. Citing Comer's remarks, a reporter asked Bondi on Wednesday morning whether the documents were missing, to which he said no, the FBI, they're reviewing tens of thousands of videos of Epstein with children, or, again, can't be saying all of that, but let's just say horrific material. The FBI is diligently going through that, she continued, noting the large volume of files. She added, there are hundreds of victims. On the campaign trail, Donald Trump committed to releasing the documents related to the disgraced financier who is accused of trafficking young people. Epstein died behind bars in 2019, awaiting his trafficking trial. The Attorney General's update comes after questions have swirled in recent weeks over when the next batch of Epstein files would be released. Bondi released the first phase of the classified files on February 27th last week, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt fielded a question about when the bulk of the files are expected to be released, to which he said she doesn't have a specific timeline. I can assure you that the Attorney General and her team are working on this diligently. Last month, a reporter asked Trump when the public could expect to see the release of more documents. He said he wasn't sure, but that he'd speak to the Attorney General for more information. I do know that we've done the RFK and of course John F. Kennedy and Martin Luther King is out there very shortly, so we'll find out. Trump added, we've really announced we're doing them in full transparency. The release of the first wave of the documents has met with some disappointment, even from Trump's MAGA allies. Now, of course, I want to pull up this here as well, because this is, again, just for purposes, from Hotspot, Attorney General Pam Bondi talking about the videos.
No, the FBI, the FBI, they're reviewing, there are tens of thousands of videos of Epstein with children or.
And I want to pause here and skip ahead of that, because that will definitely get us flagged.
And no one victim will ever get released. It's just the volume, and that's what they're going through right now. The FBI is diligently going through that. I haven't seen that statement, but I'll call him later and find out.
Now, one other thing here too, there was, again, more to bring up here, because what's fascinating though is that there seems to be a quick attempt by this administration to try and release more of this documentation. Now, what's the problem? What is the issue? What is the main problem with Jeffrey Epstein and these files? Well, first of all, we all know, number one, that when it comes down to realizing that many key powerful people who have donated to Democrats and Republicans, Democrat and Republican politicians, I don't know, people of influence such as celebrities, musicians, have all had close ties with one Jeffrey E. We all know that a lot of people will be exposed. And sooner or later, everything comes to light. Everything gets ripped apart. Everything is shown. And the sad truth is, there's probably going to be a quick attempt for some of these files to be missing. Now, remember, Jeffrey knew Trump and Jeffrey knew Bill Clinton. He knew all these power players. He knew all the movers and shakers within the entire political circle here in the United States, but also overseas. Everyone's time is running out. Everyone sees this for what it is. And, you know, all of this starting way back in 2019. Hell, I remember when my good friends, Pasta and Fiorella, covered this way back in the day. Who would have think that even now, after people are demanding full transparency, we're still waiting? How many victims have been silenced? How many victims are being persecuted? How many victims are asking for justice? So to the Trump administration, either you have the files or you don't, but release them to the public. The people have a right to know, because we're getting this whole back and forth. And I have to say right now, everything that's been released so far with the Jeffrey Epstein files, stuff we already knew. JFK files, RFK files, no big smoking gun. What happened to everything? Something doesn't add up.